Have you ever wondered where email came from? I mean, think about it. We use it every single day. For work, for staying in touch, for online shopping. It's a huge part of modern life. But unlike the telephone or the light bulb, no one really set out to invent email. Its creation was more of an accident, a happy little experiment that spiraled into something world. Let's rewind the clock and see how it all happened. Our story starts in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Computers back then were nothing like the sleek laptops and phones we have today. They were massive room-sized machines called mainframes. They were incredibly expensive, and universities or large research institutions were lucky if they had just one. To use the computer, you had to physically go to it and book a time slot. It was slow and inefficient. To solve this, a new idea emerged: time-sharing. This allowed multiple users to connect to the same mainframe computer from different terminals, which were basically just keyboards and screens. It was a huge leap forward. Now, a dozen researchers could work on the same computer simultaneously. But this created a new, smaller problem. How do you leave a message for someone who uses the same computer but at a different time? Before email, people got creative. They would create a file and save it in a shared directory. Then, they'd have to somehow let the other person know to look for it. Maybe they'd call them on the phone or stick a note on their desk. It was clumsy, but it worked. Sort of. One of the people working on this puzzle was a programmer named Ray Tomlinson. In 1971, Ray was working on ARPANET, the forerunner to our modern internet. It was a network connecting computers at different universities and research labs across the United States. He was experimenting with a couple of different programs. One was an internal messaging program that let users on the same computer leave messages for each other. Another was a file transfer protocol that could send files between different computers on the network. One day, Ray had a thought. What if he combined these two ideas? What if he could use the file transfer protocol to send a message file, not just to another user on his own computer, but to a user on a completely different computer, somewhere else on the ARPANET? He tinkered with the code, splicing the two programs together. He needed a way to address the message, to tell the network which user it was for and which computer they were on. He looked down at his keyboard, a Model 33 teletype. He needed a character that wasn't commonly used in people's names or computer names, so the system wouldn't get confused. And there it was, right on the keyboard. The @ symbol, the @ sign. It made perfect sense. You'd have the user's name, the @ sign, and then the computer's name. Duh. So, Tomlinson, @BB Untinexa user, @host. It was simple, logical, and elegant. With the addressing system figured out, he was ready for a test. He set up two computers right next to each other in his lab. He typed out a message and sent it from one to the other. And it worked. The very first network email had been sent. What did that historic first email say? Was it some profound message, like "What hath God wrought?" or "One small step for man"? Nope. Ray himself said it was probably something totally forgettable, like "Quirtuiope" or "Testing 1 2 3." It wasn't about the content. It was about the fact that it worked at all. He had successfully sent a message from one machine to another, an act that seems so mundane today but was revolutionary back then. After his successful test, Ray sent a message to his colleagues explaining how to use his new creation. He didn't hold a press conference. There were no headlines. He later said he just thought it was a neat idea. He told a colleague, "Don't tell anyone. This isn't what we're supposed to be working on." But you can't keep a good idea down. The small community of ARPANET users, mostly researchers and academics, found it incredibly useful. It was a much better way to coordinate projects and share information than the old methods. Slowly but surely, word spread. People started using it, developing new features like reply and forward functions, and creating mailing lists for group discussions. A study in 1973 just 2 years later, found that 75% of all traffic on the ARPANET was now email. It had become the network's killer app, entirely by accident. For years, email remained the exclusive tool of scientists, engineers, and university students. But, as personal computers became more common in the 1980s and commercial internet service providers emerged in the early 90s, email finally broke into the mainstream. Companies like AOL and CompuServe offered easy-to-use email to the general public, and its popularity exploded. Suddenly, you could send a letter to someone on the other side of the world, and it would arrive in seconds, not weeks. It's fascinating to think that no one, at the time, not even Ray Tomlinson, predicted the enormous impact his little experiment would have. They saw it as a convenient tool for a small group of researchers, not as a technology that would one day connect billions of people and fundamentally change how we communicate, work, and live. No one planned for spam, or phishing, or the feeling of having an overflowing inbox. It just evolved. The story of email is a powerful reminder that some of the biggest changes in the world do not come from grand master plans. They often start as small, curious experiments, as someone tinkering with a problem and thinking, what if? Ray Tomlinson wasn't trying to change the world. He was just a curious engineer who saw a way to make something a little bit better, a little more efficient. And in doing so, he accidentally laid the foundation for our modern digital world. It just goes to show you, you never know which small idea might be the next big thing. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, consider liking the video and subscribing for more deep dives into the history of technology. See you in the next one.